Hello, welcome to my channel, Garland of Books. Today I wanted to show y'all a few resources I use for building my home library. So, all right. So here is For the Children's Sake by Susan Schaefer Macaulay. This was the first book that I read that helped introduce me to the Charlotte Mason method and really cast a vision that I was just enamored of and maybe want to start learning more about how to do it. So anyways, this is a lovely book and I highly recommend it if you're considering Charlotte Mason at all, just to see what it could be like, I guess. And it's not too long. It's like, 156 pages here. Anyways, but not too far into it, she has just a little list of her personal family read alouds that they enjoyed. So that was one place that I started with. I'll show you, a little snippet of some of those first ones. But yes, those were just ones that I started, looking at and being like, do I have some of those? And I did. And I always like seeing lists of people who have some things that I have already read and know that I like, and then seeing what else they recommend, because there's just lots of books that I've never heard of. Okay, so that's one place that was a good starting place for me. And then I've got some, let's see, here is Books Children Love, A Guide to the Best Children's Literature by Elizabeth Wilson, forward by Susan Schaefer Macaulay, so that's nice. Yeah, this just goes through, it has different categories and age recommendations for certain things. So let's see, it's got like biography, literature level 1, geography and history. It's just lists and lists. It's got little blurbs of the different books, so you can kind of get an idea of what it's about. And so this is a good way, I love building my home library because sometimes we have things, I'm able to find things that are not available at the library. So that's a nice way to have quality literature here that wouldn't be able to. The library is it's kind of a mixed bag because it's got lots and lots of books in it. You couldn't read them all ever, but it's nice to know what you're looking for because there's lots of books that are going to be kind of fluffy or twaddle, or I just feel like we only have a certain amount of time and I want to use that time to read the best books, and we just don't have time to waste. That's what I think. Like, there's so many books that I want to read, and I don't know if I'll ever finish the books that I want to read that are like high recommendations, that I don't have time to spend on books that are not going to be worth my time or my children's time, especially because we're doing our school, and then whatever free reading they do, I want it to be good. I want it to be really good, not just meh. And then of course there's some stuff at the library that's going to be just absolute garbage or evil, and so hopefully that's a smaller percentage of things, but we still don't want to randomly pick up a book that's like that. So I love building our home library and having lots of things within reach that capture their attention. And sometimes people talk about one idea to help inspire kids to read books is to read to them like from the first chapter for 30 minutes, and then have it out on a forward-facing shelf. That's always a positive. I do this with my kids a lot. When I have a book that I'm like, oh, I want to read that soon, like within the next week, I'll just have it out on the shelf. And the next thing you know, one of my kids will be like, will you read this to us? Because it looks interesting to them. So that's a librarian trick from, decades ago. Okay, here is another one. This is Who Should We Then Read by Jan Bloom. So this one is categorized by author. So each author has a little biography and background on them. And and then it has a list of their books and kind of blurbs about them. So it is just a different kind of way of going about it, and this one's highly recommended. I got a hold of this one because my aunt gave it to me. I think it might be a little harder to find now, but this is a nice tool to have as well. Here's a couple little pamphlets that my aunt gave me. So I just found this one. I'd kind of forgotten about that one. That one's biographies and autobiographies, but I've been working through this one. Hand That Rocks the Cradle, a list of good books to read aloud to children. This one has blurbs. It has the levels of reading. And so these are, I put this one away because this is like when you're in history cycle and you want to read certain books. So I was starting with just, fun, which, biographies can be fun too, but these are just general literature books of all kinds of topics, not just on certain people. So I've just been going through and finding ones that we don't have, and often what I'll do is I'll see if things are at the library and I'll put them on lists. At our library, you can make digital lists and then I can request them for pickup. And also I'll just hop on thrift books and see how expensive or cheap they are, because sometimes you can find old books on thrift books that are not so expensive. And sometimes I find hardcovers on thrift books that are, since they're older, they're cheaper than brand new paperbacks, and that's awesome. So, but yeah, I put them on wish lists on thrift books, and so I just, that kind of narrows it down, is that some of the things are inaccessible. They're just too long out of print or too rare, and some things are, you can only get brand new, but usually these lists have older books, which is cool, and then a lot of times they are on thrift books for cheap. And so I stack up on books that way. And then with thrift books too, you when you purchase more stuff, then you add up points, and you get, every once in a while, you get a free book. And I feel like it's not, I don't have to make very many orders before I get a free book. So I've gotten a lot of free books from them, free. But yeah, it's great. I love thrift books. I used to go to thrift stores a lot more, honestly, before I had kids. And now it's just so much easier to stay at home and do stuff at home. And so I don't get out to thrift stores as much. So I love thrift books that I love looking at their ISBN numbers and getting exactly the copy that I want. That is really fun. So, okay, so that's one. Here is another resource, Gladys Hunt, Honey for a Child's Heart. And so this one has a little bit of a book at the beginning. So that's cool. And then you get to some of the recommendations. Or is it like, it's kind of like, yeah, chapters that talks about it, and then it has at the end of each chapter, well, not the end of each chapter. At the beginning, it's all reading, which there are some books like that I have read too. I've read, another one to mention is the Read Aloud Revival by Sarah Mackenzie, or I think, okay, her book is called Read Aloud Family. Her podcast is Read Aloud Revival, but that one has some reading, and then it has some book lists. I honestly have found that I don't like her book list from that book as much as some of these other ones. I've been disappointed by several of her picks, so take that for what it's worth. I don't own that book. I just got it from the library and read it, and I enjoyed reading the part about Read Aloud Family. I thought that was cool. Okay, here is a newer one that I have, newer, older one. This is called Realms of Gold, Bookshop for Boys and Girls, and this is from like just about 100 years ago. It's got all these old bookmarks in it. So, by Bertha Mahoney and Eleanor Whitney, 1929, so just about 100 years ago. This one was recommended by Delectable Education. So I just got it recently. It was on Thrift Books, and it wasn't that expensive, so I thought it could have some unique, much older recommendations. Because I try and get a various range of when these were printed, because some of them will have more recent recommendations, and then I want to go back and get some older book recommender books, so they recommend older ones that are recent to them. So, but this one's a fat one, so I've just been working through a little bit, just browsing really so far. It's fun to look through these just from time to time and find what books might be of interest to you, especially if you have a child who's interested in a certain subject. But honestly, I'm just trying to fill our shelves with beautiful books from trusted recommendation sources in all kinds of categories. So, we want Shakespeare, which I've gotten all the Shakespeares now, but yeah, Shakespeare, poetry, plays, and books for free reading in all kinds of topics, nature and art, history, and biographies, and historical fictions, and sci-fi, and just all kinds of things, just so they can explore lots of different realms of information, and to their heart's content. So yeah, I hope this helped you. I love building our bookshelves and building our home library, and yeah, I think it says something to your children too, having that, there's been studies about how many books are in the home and how much reading your child does. Just seeing those print books physically there has a positive effect on them. It especially helps if you read to them and they see you reading as well. So yeah, I hope that encourages you. Okay, I'm back. Just a few more recommendations. If you go to a Delectable Education, their website, then there's a link there to a blog that has lots of posts by Liz, and she has lots of best of, so like top 10 books for boys, top 10 books for, World War I, those kind of things. I have made note of a lot of those and tried to get what books I could, so that's really fun. Also, there's this Jim Trelease, the Read Aloud Handbook. This, it's a lot about reading aloud, so it's got lots of good stuff, but it also has some book recommendations towards the back in different categories, and So that's fun. That's one resource. It's a great book about reading aloud, very encouraging. And then here is another one that's a book about reading aloud, The Enchanted Hour, The Miraculous Power of Reading Aloud in the Age of Distraction by Megan Cox Gurdon. So this one is not as much of a just straight recommended book list, but it's a really good book. And then way at the back it has just books that are mentioned in it. And you know, sometimes when people who love books talk about books that they have loved and enjoyed in their family, it's kind of contagious and you want to read that book too. So it's kind of got that feel to it in a way. But yeah, all right. Goodbye for real this time.